So I haven't been the most motivated to make a video. I've kind of had a lot going on IRL, but I'm committed to my schedule, and there's some aspects of the video production process that I didn't really get to talk about at the end of my last video, and I feel like they're not going to come up otherwise. So I am not a musician, nor am I an artist. I have a bit of practice, but I can't pretend like I have any training. The most I've done is I was briefly trained with an acoustic guitar, and I would argue I didn't even finish that. When it came to making these videos, this was kind of it was a learning process in multiple ways because I wanted to have as much control over the project as I could. Obviously, I can't control what other people are doing, in a Minecraft server, but for this project, I could at least avoid, falling into any copyright traps and being able to express myself in multiple ways. That being said, I'm also not wasteful when it comes to old projects. So when I got around to trying to come up with a song for this server, I went back through and I found this project from a couple of years ago, which I called the folder name is Ozymandias. That's like the first song. The actual thing was called like the King of Ruins or something. It was basically just a stand-in name. It was meant to be the story about this person who had kind of entered into this dead world. Maybe not quite Dark Souls. I think a bit emptier than that. Perhaps more like Shadow of the Colossus. I don't know. And in traversing into it, they were in turn consumed by it, and the album was meant to be this somewhat ambient thing that followed their journey through this world. I don't know if that idea was still in my head when I was coming up with the character or moral, or if when I came up with the character, I remembered that I had music, or what the order of operations was. But regardless, I realized I already had music that kind of fit the vibe that I was going to go for. And the main thing was this little melody here, which I feel like already kind of breaks a rule by starting at 6 and going down to 5. But yeah, that was sort of the little collection of notes that had been stuck in my head for a long time. It was just one of many. I mean, like if I was to open this pattern here, you could see that it's just random. I don't know, whatever I was feeling at the time. Like I said, I'm not really a musician, so this was sort of I just put notes down until I got something that I liked. This does not sound good, by the way. Yeah, it goes all over the place, but for some reason this worked in my mind. And when it came to actually making it for the server, I decided to make it a little higher pitched. And as you can see, I actually put it all in the same octave. And that was sort of the foundation around which I would build all of the other sounds in the server. And as it went on, I was going to introduce the original as this sort of corruption, which ultimately didn't pan out. The final version of it showed up in the intro of episode 10, which I'm fine with. It's been so long that I can't really get into many of the inspirations, I guess. Just games that I've played, the sound of Minecraft in general. This specific FL Studio file is just every possible idea I had tied to the server. Some of it's just chords that I had already put together from other stuff, which then became time-lapse music. Other parts of it are the custom intros that I made for the various players. So here is Lily's at request. That is, in fact, bad to the bone. I also have this, I don't know what you would phrase it. I think when I originally conceived it, it was meant to be like a guitar solo or something. Loosely inspired, and I do mean loosely inspired, by Aerodynamic by Daft Punk, which originally came from a song that I made to capture the feeling of a round in Lethal Company back when I was making videos with some friends for that. The original version of it actually showed up very briefly in the outro, but it was not the solo from that song, but rather which I like just because it's this nice resolution that sort of falls off note by note, which in combination with the whole song was meant to be successfully leaving the planet with loot in tow. But as I said, I don't let any idea go to waste, and so when I needed a collection of songs, not just a driving melody for the server, but songs for other things like time lapses, montages, stuff like that, I went to other songs that I had already made. These are all different piano settings, different compositions. Some of them for song. There's some songs that I either made for this or that I already had that just didn't even make it into this. And in fact, I actually have a recording here of me whistling out the tune trying to remember it. Like I said, I'm not really a musician. There isn't much music theory going on here. It's just whatever I feel works in the moment, and I extrapolate upon that to try and come up with a time lapse song or whatever this was going to be. I don't even know what this is. Okay, so I just remembered what that is. That is from another old song that I made for a previous video, which was going to be a dance song styled after like kind of late 2000s Eurodance. Maybe like a jump style type song, which I didn't actually finish before I released the relevant video. So it's like basically the bass line is the only thing that appears in the video. Not that it matters. That video has now been privated. So yeah, if you're a musician, I really hope that didn't hurt you too much to look at, because it's pretty rough, and a lot of that's old projects. I'm resolved for the next thing I do to actually fully compose new music, because I think at this point I've already spent all the stuff that I had previously not used. And while we're describing the creative process, I am going to get into the thumbnails, because I am very proud of these, and I did not get to talk about it nearly enough. Oh, thank God. Oh my God, sorry. I was genuinely freaking out just then because I thought I had deleted my original video files. Oh, that would have been nightmarish. Okay. Jeez. All right, so this should help explain how I go about making the thumbnails. So typically I start with just any image of the server, the most relevant build for an episode, or maybe just something that I think looks pretty. Perhaps just thematic. I then outline it. Sort of tracing. Sometimes I take more liberties. Sometimes I just straight up trace the screenshot using a thick ink brush, which I don't remember the name of, and for some reason the file isn't showing. Usually at that point, I will reduce the opacity of the original image, and, just so I can keep it underneath, get a sense for what color it is, and then typically I'll color pick and then use a very bristly paintbrush to paint in the colors. And once that's done, I really don't need the original, so I have the ink and the color layer, and it's all the bristles. And it took me a while to realize this, but I should pick the brush and keep the size consistent, because it led to this weird layering effect in the earlier thumbnails, which I don't think is really noticeable. YouTube thumbnails are incredibly compressed. These original files, by the way, are like 5,000 pixels by 3,000 or something like that, whatever the proportionality would be to get a 1280 by 720 thumbnail. I then add in the shading, which is usually just the same color as it is underneath, maybe a little bit darker, or it's not random, but just a bluish gray to add some darkness to a scene, a little bit of contrast. And if I really need to, maybe add a pop of color, I add a separate light layer, which is just where a light source is, maybe to draw the eye. So yeah, for as much as I'm not a musician, I am especially not an artist. These were done with a simple Wacom tablet and a don't worry about it copy of Photoshop. But really, those are things that happened. The music mostly happened before the videos were actually made. And the thumbnails only happened once the video was totally complete and I knew exactly what was going to be included in it, so I could select what I wanted to draw. As for the actual video production process itself, It was mostly just a matter of feeling the right inspiration, starting to build, and then letting the video naturally take shape. Sometimes this would be a week and a half long process, and I would barely get the video out on time. Such was the case with the community center, by far the most stressful section of the server. Alternatively, I would just not really be feeling it, kind of like I am now, and just kind of put something together a few days before, which was the case with episode 5, because I just wasn't feeling it at the time. So I ended up recording it and editing it almost all in the same day. But essentially, like I said, I don't script. I just kind of do whatever feels correct in the moment and try and build up from there. So while I would get more and more ideas as the season went on, my notes on each video actually got shorter. My initial outline for all the different stuff that I had planned was ridiculous because it was every idea I had. And then as it went on, the ideas kind of became more and more narrow until I landed at what actually came out. And most of the story, I guess if you want to call it that, came out in the edit. It came out in the little moments that I made with flashback during the intros. It came out in some of the music that I used in these in where I put certain social interactions. And I guess just as a fun little side note here, we'll see if the recording can handle this. I am going to show something that I think is neat, which is my build world, entirely separate from the build world that I did for the server. These are all just a bunch of old builds from various other servers I've been on. And here is the original logo, lined up on this platform here. I believe what I did was I used flashback and I put the camera in here, or maybe I was in spectator mode. But yeah, the logo for the server was actually built in game, and then I just applied a simple oil filter over it to kind of hide the fact that it was a bunch of Minecraft blocks. And for my live moral reaction, I just made a little green screen room here. Hello. Yeah, like I said, just kind of a short overview of some of the stuff I just wouldn't have had an excuse to talk about. Now, I will say, the next video will probably just be a one-off. I might go with that hardcore world that I wasn't really feeling today, or I might do something else. It'll probably still be Minecraft related if we're being honest, but I do now have something lined up for the future. That's all I'll say. You can expect that in, I would say, 2 more videos, maybe 3. It'll be about a month and a half from when this video goes up. So stay tuned, and I will see you in 2 weeks.